your entire identity might be built on a calculated omission. For centuries, a silent guardian has been drifting across the celestial equator, ignored by the charts that claim to dictate your destiny. It is the Serpent Bearer, the ghost in the machine of the heavens, and its exclusion from the modern zodiac was not a simple clerical error. It was a choice. Every time you look at a horoscope, you are looking at a map with a missing continent. We are told that there are 12 houses, 12 archetypes that define the human experience, but the stars themselves tell a more complex and perhaps more unsettling story. This is the shadow that lingers between the lines of history, a silent conflict between the order we crave and the chaos we fear. The modern zodiac is a masterpiece of symmetry. 12 signs, 30 degrees each, forming a perfect circle of 360 degrees. It is elegant, mathematical, and deeply satisfying to the human need for structure. But the universe is rarely that tidy. Between November 29th and December 17th, the sun passes through a constellation that the ancient world feared and revered in equal measure. This is Ophiuchus, the 13th sign, the one that doesn't fit into the box. Its exclusion represents a fundamental tension between the human desire for a predictable system and the shifting, majestic reality of the cosmos. When we look at the sky, we see what we have been trained to see, yet there is a massive celestial figure standing right in the center of our path, holding a secret that has been edited out of our collective story. Imagine a door that has been locked for 3,000 years. The key was not hidden because the door was empty, but because what lay behind it was considered too volatile for the public consciousness. In ancient Babylon, the astronomers were masters of the sky. They observed the sun's path with a precision that still baffles modern scholars. They knew Ophiuchus was there. They saw the sun linger within its borders. Yet, when they formalized the zodiac, they chose the number 12. It was a number of completion, divisible by 2, 3, 4, and 6. It represented the 12 months of the year and the cycles of the moon. 13, however, was the prime number that broke the cycle. It was the wild card that threatened the stability of their celestial clockwork. To include it would be to admit that the system was imperfect, that the circle could not be closed so easily. To understand why Ophiuchus was pushed into the shadows, we must look at what it represents. In Greek mythology, the constellation is associated with Asclepius, the healer who learned the secrets of immortality from a serpent. He was so successful at bringing the dead back to life that the very foundations of the natural order began to tremble. Hades, the god of the underworld, complained to Zeus that the balance between life and death was being disrupted. The boundary between the mortal and the eternal was thinning. Zeus ultimately struck Asclepius down with a thunderbolt, placing him among the stars as Ophiuchus. This myth highlights a recurring theme: the danger of forbidden knowledge and the risk of overstepping human boundaries. Ophiuchus is not just a sign, it is a symbol of the power to bridge worlds, a power that authority figures throughout history have sought to regulate and contain. The visual representation of Ophiuchus is a man grappling with a massive serpent. In almost every ancient culture, the serpent represents hidden wisdom, the spiral of DNA, and the primal forces of the earth. By removing the Serpent Bearer from the zodiac, the narrative of human destiny was simplified. We were given the gentle scales of Libra and the brave lion of Leo, but the figure who masters the serpent, the one who mediates between the divine and the terrestrial, was excised. Some suggest that this omission served to disconnect humanity from a specific type of transformative energy, one that is less about personality traits and more about the evolution of consciousness itself. It is the image of a struggle, a godlike figure wrestling with an energy that is both life-giving and deadly. This leads us to the most provocative aspect of the 13th sign, its location. Ophiuchus is situated in a unique position relative to the center of our galaxy. It points directly toward the galactic center, a region of intense gravitational pull and cosmic radiation. Many ancient civilizations, from the Mayans to the Egyptians, focused their monuments on specific celestial gates or points of transition. There is a persistent theory in the study of archaeoastronomy that Ophiuchus acts as a spiritual or energetic gateway. While mainstream science views the galactic center as a massive black hole, ancient traditions often described it as the source or the womb of the universe. If Ophiuchus is the gatekeeper to this source, then its exclusion from our cultural framework is more than just a matter of calendar aesthetics. It suggests a missing link in our understanding of how we relate to the larger universe. There is a sense of conflict here, a struggle between the organized, predictable world we are told we live in and the vast, unknown potential that Ophiuchus represents. When the Sun passes through this constellation, it is aligned with the very heart of the Milky Way. For those born during this window, the traditional signs of Scorpio and Sagittarius don't quite capture the depth of their experience. They are often described as possessing a restless search for truth, a healing touch, and a certain otherness that defies standard categorization. They occupy the space between the worlds, the gap in the map that no one wants to talk about. The suppression of Ophiuchus may also be linked to the changing of the ages. Due to the Earth's precession, a slow, 26,000-year wobble on its axis, the positions of the constellations relative to the Sun have shifted over the millennia. The dates used by traditional astrology no longer align with the actual astronomical positions of the stars. This creates a gap between reality and tradition. For some, this gap is a harmless quirk of history, a relic of ancient math. For others, it is a symptom of a deeper disconnection. We are navigating our lives using a map that is thousands of years out of date, ignoring the 13th gate that has slowly moved into our direct line of sight. We are clinging to the safety of the 12 while the 13th star field calls out to be acknowledged. Consider the role of the number 13 in our society. It is the number of bad luck, the floor missing from skyscrapers, the seat skipped on airplanes. This cultural phobia, known as triskaidekaphobia, may be a lingering echo of the ancient decision to exclude the 13th sign. By labeling the number as unlucky, the collective mind is conditioned to avoid it, and by extension, to avoid the knowledge associated with Ophiuchus. It is a subtle but effective way to keep the gate closed. The dark thriller of our history is not found in what was destroyed, but in what was hidden in plain sight, disguised as a common superstition. Fear is often used as a lock, and for centuries, we have been taught to look away from the very thing that could complete our understanding of the heavens. In the temples of ancient Egypt, there were whispers of a lost knowledge that could bridge the gap between the mortal and the eternal. They spoke of the way of the serpent, a path of initiation that required facing one's deepest shadows to emerge transformed. It is possible that the Ophiuchus energy was the celestial blueprint for this journey. By removing the sign, the map for this transformation was lost to the average person. We were left with a circular zodiac that keeps us returning to the same lessons, the same traits, and the same cycles, without the exit point or the evolutionary leap that the 13th sign provides. We are walking in a circle, unaware that there is a path leading toward the center. The tension between the 12 and the 13 is a tension between control and freedom. 12 is the number of the system, the hours on a clock, the months in a year, the tribes, the apostles. It is the structure that holds society together. 13 is the outsider, the rebel, the one who sees beyond the structure. In a world that prizes predictability, Ophiuchus is a liability. It represents the idea that there are specific moments in time and space where the veil between dimensions is thin. If such gates exist, even in a metaphorical sense, then those who understand the 13 signs would have a different perspective on time and destiny than those who only know the 12. They would see a universe that is open, rather than a system that is closed. As we move deeper into the digital age, the interest in Ophiuchus is rising. It is as if the collective subconscious is beginning to remember something it was supposed to forget. The viral nature of the 13th Zodiac story every few years isn't just a trend, it is a manifestation of a deeper curiosity about the things that don't fit the official narrative. We live in an era of unprecedented information, yet we feel a persistent sense that something vital is missing. This missing piece is the Serpent Bearer, standing at the center of the galaxy, holding the secrets of the gate. The more we try to ignore it, the louder its silence becomes. Is it possible that the ancient civilizations didn't just hide Ophiuchus out of fear, but out of protection? Some traditions suggest that the knowledge of the sky gates was only meant for those who had undergone rigorous training. To open a door to the center of the galaxy without the proper preparation could be overwhelming to the human psyche. The exclusion of the 13th sign might have been a safety mechanism, a way to ensure that only the healers and the wise could navigate the bridge. But in a world where we are increasingly seeking our own truths, the safety mechanism starts to look like a cage. The protection of the past has become the limitation of the present. The conflict remains unresolved. On one side, we have the weight of tradition and the comfort of the 12-sign system that has guided humanity for 3 millennia. On the other, we have the silent testimony of the stars themselves and the mysterious figure of the Serpent Bearer who refuses to disappear. The risk of acknowledging Ophiuchus is the risk of admitting that our systems are incomplete. It is the risk of looking into the dark void of the galactic center and realizing that we are part of a much larger, much more complex drama than we ever imagined. It requires us to accept that the map is not the territory, and the stars do not care about our need for symmetry. As you consider your place in the universe, think about the space between the signs. Think about the days in December when the sun departs from the Scorpion and has not yet reached the Archer. In that window of time, the old rules don't apply. The gate is open, the serpent is held, and the 13th sign watches over the center of all things. Whether we choose to include it in our charts or not, Ophiuchus remains. It is the dark thriller of the heavens, a reminder that the most important truths are often the ones we were told to ignore. We are living in a moment where the forgotten is returning, and the ghost in the machine is starting to speak. The sky is not just a ceiling, it is a language. And like any language, what is left unsaid is often more important than what is spoken aloud. The silence of Ophiuchus is a deafening roar to those who know how to listen. It speaks of lost civilizations, of forbidden wisdom, and of a celestial gateway that has never truly been closed. We are standing at the edge of a new understanding, peering through a crack in the door that was supposed to be sealed forever. The 13th Zodiac is not a new discovery, it is a return to a reality that was once understood by the architects of the ancient world. They built their monuments to align with these stars, even as they edited them out of the common scrolls. The journey into the heart of the Serpent Bearer is a journey into the unknown. It requires us to question the foundations of our beliefs and to accept that the universe is far more mysterious than a 12-page calendar. The stargates of the ancient myths may not be physical doors in the sand, but alignments in time and consciousness that allow us to see beyond the veil. Ophiuchus is the key to that alignment. It is the missing knowledge that completes the circle, the 13th hour that breaks the spell of the clock. It is the healer who refuses to let the soul remain in a cycle of repetition. In the end, the story of Ophiuchus is a story about the human spirit's refusal to be contained. We can draw our circles and name our signs, but the stars will continue their slow, majestic dance, indifferent to our labels. The Serpent Bearer continues to hold the snake, the healer continues to challenge the boundaries of life, and the gate to the center of the galaxy remains poised at the heart of our sky. The question is not whether the 13th sign exists, but whether we are ready to face what it represents. The dark thriller of the Zodiac is far from over. In many ways, for those who are just now looking up, it is only just beginning. The map is being redrawn, and this time, the missing continent is coming home.